For decades, Iran and Israel have waged a shadow war across the Middle East, but in 2024 and 2025, that conflict has exploded into direct confrontation. With missiles flying between Tehran and Tel Aviv, this is the story of how we got here.
After midday, when a few hundred demonstrators, and it must be emphasized that it was no more than that, began to throw a chain of burning barricades across streets throughout the city center.
The modern Iran-Israel conflict began in 1979, when Iran's Islamic Revolution transformed a former ally into avowed enemy, the new regime, declared Israel an illegitimate state and vowed its destruction. For over 4 decades, this remained largely a proxy war. Iran built what it called the Axis of Resistance, funding and arming groups like Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in Gaza, and militias across Syria and Iraq. Israel responded with targeted assassinations, cyber attacks, and airstrikes against Iranian assets. The conflict played out in shadows. Mysterious explosions at Iranian nuclear facilities, assassinations of scientists, cyber warfare like the Stuxnet virus. Both sides maintained plausible deniability, keeping the war limited and indirect. That changed on October 7, 2023, when Hamas militants stormed into Israel, killing 1,200 people and taking 250 hostages. Iran, which had armed and funded Hamas, offered its full support to the militants.
Allahu Akbar! حط راسك يا زلمه بالجوادر والله روح يا عبد الرحمن هاي جباتهم جباتهم الهما هذه رسالة لأخونا القائد العام لقائد الضيف. هاي ما تمنيت واحنا رجالك ونحن بإذن الله ببيت لا الباقي بإذن الله والقادم أعظم. صيح طوش هكا
Israel's war in Gaza quickly spread across the region. Hezbollah began firing rockets from Lebanon. Iranian-backed militias in Iraq and Syria launched attacks. The Houthis in Yemen targeted shipping in the Red Sea. Israel struck back hard. In February 2024, an Israel sabotage attack caused multiple explosions across Iran. Throughout the year, Israel systematically targeted Iranian proxy leaders
of Iran's military and nuclear institutions during strikes on Tehran, including the Chief of Staff of Iran's armed forces, Major General Mohammad Bagheri, and Hossein Salami, the head of Iran's Revolutionary Guard. There are unconfirmed reports that Commander Major General Gholam Ali, who ran Iran's military command center, the Khatam al-Anbiya Central Headquarters, was also killed. Feridun Abbasi, the former head of the Atomic Energy Organization, of Iran and top nuclear scientist Mehdi Tehranchi have also been killed in the Israeli strikes.
In September 2024, Israel dealt devastating blows to Hezbollah. Thousands of pagers and walkie-talkies exploded simultaneously across Lebanon, killing at least 11 people and wounding 4,000 mostly Hezbollah members. Among the injured was Iran's ambassador to Lebanon. Israel followed up by assassinating top Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iranian Revolutionary Guard commanders.
2 consecutive days of attacks in Lebanon. Dozens of radios exploded earlier today. They were carried by members of the Iran-backed Hezbollah terrorist group just one day after deadly blasts using thousands of the organization's pagers. CNN's Ben Wiedemann is in Beirut and filed this report for us.
A funeral for those killed a day before is disrupted by another explosion. A wave of walkie-talkie blasts across Lebanon killed more than a dozen and injured hundreds Wednesday, coming barely 24 hours after hundreds of pagers blew up across the country at food markets and shops, killing at least 12 people, including 2 children, and injuring around 2,800 others. In what CNN sources say was an attack by Israel's Mossad and military against Hezbollah, unprecedented in its scale and nature.
Iran's proxy network, built over decades, was crumbling. On October 1, 2024, Iran crossed a red line. Citing the assassinations of its proxy leaders, Iran launched approximately 200 ballistic missiles directly at Israel in 2 waves. For the first time, Iran claimed to have used hypersonic missiles. Israel's response came on October 26, 2024. Israeli jets and drones struck targets near Tehran's Imam Khomeini Airport and other locations across Iran. The shadow war had become a direct conflict. By November 2024, Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was threatening a crushing response against Israel and allies. The region teetered on the brink of all-out war. The current crisis began just over a week ago on June 13, 2025, when Israel launched a major attack on Iran's nuclear program. Israel struck the Arak heavy water reactor, escalating tensions to unprecedented levels. Iran's retaliation was swift and devastating. On June 16th, Iran launched airstrikes and drones at Israel throughout the day. While Israel responded with its own strikes on Tehran, the violence intensified on June 18th. Iranian state television reported that Israel had attacked Iran's Arak heavy water reactor. Hours later, Iranian ballistic missiles slammed into Israel, with one hitting Sonoma Medical Center, the largest hospital in southern Israel. The death toll has been mounting rapidly. At least 224 people have been killed in Iran. Since Israel began its bombing campaign on June 13th, in Israel, Iran retaliatory strikes have killed at least 24 people and wounded over 200. On June 17th, Israel took an unprecedented step, warning 300,000 people in central Tehran to evacuate as its air campaign appeared to broaden. Israeli strikes have reportedly targeted much of Iran's supreme leader's inner circle. The crisis has reached the highest levels of the U.S. government. On June 18th, President Donald Trump held a Situation Room meeting to discuss American involvement in the Israel-Iran conflict. The next day, Trump announced he would allow 2 weeks for diplomacy before deciding whether to launch strikes against Iran. But Iran's supreme leader has already rejected American calls for surrender, warning that U.S. military involvement would cause irreparable damage. The human cost is escalating. According to the State Department report from June 20th, hundreds of American citizens have fled Iran as the conflict intensified. Israel reports suggest that multiple members of Iran's remaining axis of resistance in Lebanon, Gaza, Iraq, Syria, and Yemen are preparing coordinated regulatory attacks similar to the April 20th. 24 strikes as we speak. The conflict continues to escalate. Air raid sirens wail across Israel as Iranian missiles are intercepted over Tel Aviv in Tehran, explosions echo through the night as Israel. Jets and drones strike targets across the Iranian capital. What began as a shadow war in 1979 has become a direct confrontation that threatens to engulf the entire Middle East with nuclear facilities under attacks. Civilian casualties mountain in the United States. Wane in military action, Iran-Israel. Conflict has entered its most dangerous phase. The next 2 weeks as president. Trump has indicated may determine whether diplomacy can still prevent a wide-region war or whether the Middle East is headed towards the most devastating conflict in decades.